You're listening to Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right, well, hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And we're your hosts for this show. And we thought today, because we mentioned this, I think, on our last show, right? Where we started getting into this whole discussion about the Force and, you know, is it more of a belief thing? Is it more like a midichlorian or like kind of a science-based thing? Is it a combination of the two? How do you explain the differences between the power of some? And then, of course, you have like the Jedi and the Sith who are part of an order versus maybe Force users who are not part of an order. So in the interest of expounding upon that discussion, we thought, hey, why not? Let's... And, you know, I mean, the funny thing is that I really wish, in the interest of full disclosure, I really wish that I had actually read more up on this during the week. Well, you actually had to remind me that was the topic for today, honestly. So I guess there was really no danger of me studying it, right? Because I didn't even remember what we were talking about until you, like, reminded me earlier today, like, hey, weren't we doing this? And I'm like, oh, yeah. But we started to actually get into a really huge discussion about it during the last show when we were reviewing, well, not reviewing, we were updating everybody on what's coming up for Ahsoka Season 2. So the whole, like, maybe final fourth or whatever of the conversation really veered into this. And we started to realize, that's why I hope there's people chatting today, actually, because that was really one of those prime examples of our community basically steering the conversation into a whole nother realm. And of course, you know, we're up for that because, hey, why not, right? So it is fascinating to me, though, because obviously when you go back to Lucas, it seemed to be more of a, I guess if you want to just call it like faith versus science in this whole thing, right? The belief in it, you're basically drawing the Force to you, more or less, or the Force is exerting its will on you, for lack of a better term. In A New Hope, he started to maybe go in that direction, and even with the original trilogy, you know, because Yoda says things like, well, you know, you couldn't do it because you didn't believe you could do it, you know, that kind of thing. But then in the prequel trilogy, he started going more of the scientific route with the midichlorians and, you know, all that other stuff, and now Disney seems to be walking that line in the middle, right? Like you have the world between worlds, you have, you know, somewhat of the more, you know, Broom Kid, things like that. I mean, I guess you can make an argument with midichlorians with him too, but it's like, how much is really affecting each thing? And so that's what we thought we would do tonight, is actually, you know, try to tackle some of this stuff a little bit and, you know, see where it goes. Now, of course, Ted's like, y'all snuck up on me.
Surprise.
Yeah. Well, you know,
or in the words of Obi-Wan, hello there.
Well, I think, you know, what's throwing everybody off is we're actually on time today.
Yes.
You know, I think everybody, you know, we may
Force
say
works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, right. That's exactly. You know, we thought, well, I mean, the truth is I got a job coming up the next couple of days, so I didn't want to try to pull this thing off too late, or, you know, I'm going to pay for it tomorrow.
Right.
But did you, that's a long shot, but did you actually come up with anything, any sources, any study, or any
exposition,
like anything that maybe, you know, official? Because if not, then what we're gonna have to do is we're just gonna have to look this stuff up on the fly. And
well, that's part of the fun of it, though. I mean,
just talking about it. I mean, just, you know, maybe using movie examples or something. And then, of course, if enough people chat in, you guys can talk about. I mean, you guys are the one, honestly, that started all this. You know, this was a thing that started last week, and we thought, well, you know, we haven't done a Force-based show in a while, and as you pointed out, every time we do, we get like a ton of views on it. So,
right, yeah. I mean, so the whole faith versus science thing. I mean, I like the way that you kind of segregated that. This is coming from a black man, by the way. But
Yeah, we don't usually hear black people talking about segregation in a positive light too often, but
exactly.
But see, Star Wars, right?
Brings everything together.
Exactly.
It's like the force; it binds us together. So here we go.
Where's David when we need him?
Right. But here's the thing: I like the way that the conversation is kind of framed, because I think it leads to different things. So on one hand, yes, you do have the scientific explanation and the scientific rationale behind the force. Yes, it's microscopic, life forms that pretty much live within all living things. And the more of these microscopic organisms that you have within you gives you a greater propensity to be able to tap into what's known as the living force. But then you only have on the faith side of things, like you aforementioned about Yoda, where he told Luke, he's like, well, I don't believe it. He's like, that is why you failed. It's because you didn't believe that you could do it. So, which is true, right? And I think they're both true. I think two things can be true at the same time. I think that the science of it has to be true. And then I think, the faith in it has to be true as well. Because like we've compared it before, you can genetically be gifted. And however, like the belief in yourself to push yourself to feel that capacity of greatness, shall we say, that's on you. There's people who we know, like, let's just say, like, we've seen plenty of people who are tall, like just you're 6'5", 6'6". I'm talking about really tall, like 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", and you've seen those people who are like lanky, and they have no control over their body. They're tripping over stuff. Their feet are big. They're clumsy, and you're just because. Yes, you have a genetic gift of being tall, and it is a gift. However, you haven't learned how to maneuver and develop those things and believe in yourself like, oh, well, I'm always clumsy. I'm always like, no, you don't have to. You can work on it and become very agile and very balanced. But if you don't have that belief in yourself that you can do it, then you'll forever be clumsy.
No, I 100% agree, actually. I mean, in this conversation, I don't know if it kind of reminds me of basketball, right? I mean, we're talking tall, lanky. I mean, look.
Exactly.
Basketball, let's just take that for example. Now, you could be tall, and you could be, like, kind of lean and muscular, have that basketball player's body, right?
Yep.
But again, going to your point, that doesn't mean you're automatically going to be... Now, sure, you could have, like, you could be some prodigious basketball player where it's a talent you have. But for most people, having those attributes just means that you have the ability to probably be good, but you still have to develop that. You got to get up every morning, and work out. You got to develop your skills. You have to be able to then... Usually you have to have a coach guiding you as well, because you're not going to be as honest with yourself. And this is true with almost any kind of a sport, or even to a degree like, bodybuilding, music. Everybody has like some sort of a mentor or something that pushes them to the next level. And in the Star Wars universe, that's what the Master does, right? I mean, Qui-Gon to Obi-Wan looks at Obi-Wan's weaknesses and everything. And it's like, okay, you're starting out with Yoda as a youngling, and you're developing. Well, actually, let's even go back before that. First, you have to be identified that you even have this special ability. Yeah. Now, in the prequels, it's like, oh, we're just going to maybe like your midichlorian count is above, 8 or something. I don't know. It's an arbitrary number, but it's like, there's probably a certain number in the old lore expanded universe before we had this more scientific approach. It was they felt them in the Force, and they basically, it was more like they identified like, hey, this kid, maybe they're a little bit too good of a pilot, or we notice that this guy is constantly like getting his broom to him, or like there's a little bit more propensity of being able to use the Force than just like the average person where the Force is flowing through them, right? So you have that sort of thing. And then once they identify that, then it's like, well, let's test them, let's see. And then of course, then they go through the, I mean, it sounds kind of funny to say it this way, but like the youngling program. Right, where they're learning the basic mechanics of things, how the Force works. Han Solo would be proud. Things like that. And then, of course, they're eventually assigned a master. And, they ascend to the role of Padawan. And then, of course, they're trained even further. So everything, no matter how prodigious they may be, even Anakin, who was born of the Force, basically, needed a master to guide him. So you do have, this kind of a thing going on. So I think that your point is great in the sense of, look, just because you have these abilities from like a scientific point of view, you have the attributes, you have the raw talent, you have a lot of these things. You do still have to have somebody help you develop these things. Now, David writes in and says, hello, gentlemen, it's Star Wars Day. That it is. See, you missed our segregation joke. It came in a little bit too late.
Yeah, man. Now, one of the things, though, I do want to kind of like touch on in regards to the Force is when we look at it, we always talking about like, there's a balance in the Force.
Right. We did a whole show, in fact, on that, remember?
That we did. And, we talk about like, light versus dark. Snoke said, when, darkness rises, light rises to meet it. Now, with the Force being in all living things, and of course, as humans, or I don't want to say humans, but a lot of human-like creatures are utilizing the Force for either light side or dark side, or combination thereof, maybe the gray. We have to look at like, okay, its usage and its natural will, right? Because there's a will of the Force that they always talk about, and then there's like if we were to be in the world, our will, like what do we want to do with it, and does that supersede the will of the Force?
Yeah, so I should probably take this opportunity to let anybody that's watching know this is going to be a geekier show than normal. If you haven't already known, like, usually it's kind of like, hey, we got some news on Star Wars Visions. Here's who's directing it, that kind of thing. Or let's talk about like the latest, hey, the Rey movie has been canceled or back on, for the umpteenth time or whatever. This show... This one is the one that I probably wouldn't show to any females that I was interested in dating.
Unless they're really into Star Wars.
Right. That's a good point, too, because we do actually have some females that watch this, and that alone actually is a plus. But for the normal people, I'm just saying this episode might be one that, or even, some of my friends... that might not understand. I mean, but again, we are like normal. I mean, that's one of the things I love about our show, and that's one of the things I love about our community is that we have this deep love of Star Wars, but we're not like those weirdo guys. Who knows? Maybe some of you are. I don't know.
They're like, hey,
yeah, right. Like, hey, that kind of sounds like me. Well, speaking, I shouldn't even say that.
Strays.
No, Jeremy writes in. He says, "Did Shmi Skywalker have a midichlorian count? Why did the Force choose her to carry the Chosen One?" See, this is the kind of stuff.
But see, this goes into my point though, as far as the will.
It does. Universal says, "Gentlemen,
hey,
it's little David of them."
Right.
Yeah, no, right. It does. That's why I want to get that comment up here, because it does basically go into pretty much what you're talking about. And the other thing that we have to look at too is you also have the different sources that differ slightly, right? Like you had the expanded universe that started to really expound on the rules that Lucas very loosely made up in the original trilogy. And then, of course, then he started doing stuff. Oh, and don't forget, this is something we should put out here, like in the very beginning. If Lucas had made his episodes 7, 8, and 9, he had these whole like little nanobites or whatever, that, like those little creatures or something that were actually going to be living inside people that would influence stuff. So he was actually about to take that to another completely next level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when we're, talking about, like, all of our favorite characters, like, of course, we all love Vader. We love, Luke and, all our characters, members of the Jedi Council or in the Order itself. Sith Lords, if, you're really big into the Sith. So you have to ask yourself the question, did they have a choice in the matter of being who and what they are? Because let's just say for the dark side, right? Now we know that the dark side, leads to, more darkness if you're not careful. But what if you are? Because look at someone like Mace Windu. Mace Windu was clearly on the light side of the Force, yet he did use the dark side in a controlled manner. So again, it's like, are you naturally chosen by the Force to be a dark side user? Like, do you even have a choice in that?
I don't think so, because, I mean, you can look at, obviously Lucas, because remember, even though we're going to get really geeky about this, and even though we're going to look at all the canonized material, and we're going to look at everything purely in universe and what we have, I would be remiss if I didn't say that Lucas basically meant all this is just like a cautionary tale, a moral of the story, hey kids, be good, don't be bad, that kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
And so, and you could still incorporate some of that even in these discussions, even though it's a very simplified thing, because the idea is that when Mace uses it, he uses certain, I would say, like, techniques, right? Like, he's not really, he's tapping into some of the techniques, but not so much the actual ideology and things like that. When you look at somebody like Anakin had a choice, but it was a very tempting choice. And that, I think that's why I don't necessarily think that people are chosen to be dark. I think it's more that the dark side, as Yoda said, oh man, I'm just listening to myself talk, like, wow.
If we were in high school, middle school, we get beat up.
Oh, we would get beat up so bad. You know what? I hope like Chad and some of those guys I work with don't like watch tonight. But Yoda basically was like, look, it's the quicker and easier path. And it does give you a lot. So if you have a selfish reason, even if it's noble, because if you really look at what Anakin was trying to do, he had a noble reason. He was trying to amass this power so he can help people and save people from dying and all this other stuff. But that's the temptation. And before you know it, you're lost. And that's why he sheds that tear in episode 3, because he knows, like, I've become this monster and there's no redemption for me. Like, he knows I can't turn back at this point. He even kind of alludes that to Padme, like, look, I hear what you're saying, run away. We can just forget all this, but I'm too far gone. You don't know everything that I've done. So And that's what
Mm-hmm.
actually makes the Return of the Jedi redemption arc such a beautiful story, is the fact that no, you really could. I mean, so I think from that standpoint, but when you're looking at it though from Jeremy's question, which was, why was Shmi the one that was actually chosen? Why did the Force? I mean, I guess you can look at, why not her? I mean, it's kind of funny because you could really, no matter who was chosen, you would basically ask that question, I think. But
Yeah.
I mean, and look, the reality is the reason why she was chosen was because when Lucas wrote the script in 1977 and said, "Hey, we got a character named Luke Skywalker," and then in 1979, when he was still making The Empire Strikes Back, and he changed his mind and decided that Vader was going to be Luke's father, well, now you gotta retcon some things.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if we're sticking in universe, though, that's actually really a good question. It's like, what was it about her? I mean, everybody has a midichlorian count,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. And so, us or you guys out there, somebody should look up like, what's the number that makes you appeal to the
Qualified.
Jedi? Yeah, like
Yeah.
when the Jedi are starting to go, hey, we got to watch this guy, or the Sith might be like, ooh, I wonder what this guy wants out of life, and I can, use that to bend him to my will.
Well, so that I can't answer that question just yet. However, I think my
Wow, we got a lot of
hypothesis,
chats here.
my hypothesis on, and after this we definitely get to the chats. My hypothesis is I think that it's the circumstances, right? I think you need circumstances to create an opportunity. So if you look at Shmi, like Shmi had a situation or was going to end up in a situation where, okay, we don't know when she became a slave. We don't know when she got into captivity. We don't know if she was pregnant before she got into captivity or she became pregnant after she was in captivity. If she got pregnant after what she was in captivity, it makes more sense because like now it's like you have a situation where he was raised, compassionately. We see that in Anakin because he has a willing desire to help, right? He, much like Luke, he wanted to, he's like, oh, well, he doesn't like being bullied. He wants to help people. He said, well, I could enter my power and then you could take, like, he's trying to help these strangers who he has no knowledge of whatsoever. He just sees people in need like himself. He's just like willing to help someone. And then the opportunity comes for like, okay, well, look, I can free you. I can't free your mother, unfortunately. I tried to, but Watto just wasn't going to go for that. He wasn't going to let go of two slaves. So I could take you because you have a greater ability. So he was just like, well, hey, I think I'm going to stick with my mom. And Shmi is like, no, again, you could see where he comes from. He comes from an unselfish background because his mother is willing to let her child go, be whatever he's supposed to be. He has an opportunity to get out, even though she has to stay. So we can see that just from that, the background at least that he comes from. But then,
yeah, so you're basically saying like just the type of person that Shmi was.
The type of person that Shmi was, but also the opportunity because of her circumstance. Her circumstance being a slave affects Anakin in a way because he hates the whole slave thing. He wants to be free and he wants his mother to be free. And his whole thing is like, because that became his mission. Okay, you know what? When I get big enough, when I get powerful enough, I'm going to come back and save my mother. Again, he has the hero's complex. Yep. So again, that is ripe for, now you have someone it puts him in a place where now he's exposed to all this wisdom from the Jedi. But then here comes Palpatine, and Palpatine gets a chance to kind of like come from, the underbelly and pretty much starts whispering in his ear certain things.
Well, so then now Anakin becomes
conflicted.
Fear.
Yeah, and now Anakin starts to become conflicted,
right?
Because he's young enough to be conflicted.
Yeah.
See, that's one of the reasons why the Jedi picked kids was because they were young enough for you to mold them without. That's why Yoda's like, well, he's too old. He's too old to begin the training, and it's like because he's already developed some personality flaws that would have been probably snuffed out had he been a baby.
Yep.
But seeing that he wasn't, so now you have that. Well, because he has this propensity to be amazing and be great, it's like we can't pass on something like this and let somebody else get a hold of him, because if he grows up, he could be a problem for us. I mean, he did anyway, but if we don't at least get to him, and instill some things into him, it can go really bad for us. So let's keep him close. Well, unfortunately, keeping him close and too close sometimes, once again, like Leia said, the tighter you grip, tighten your grip, the more they'll slip through your fingers. And that's exactly what happened with Anakin. They kept trying to hold him back because they knew what he was capable of. And Palpatine saw that. He's like, well, you know why they keep holding you back? They're jealous. They think you're going to be more powerful than them, and they're afraid.
Basically just enhancing all that and amplifying the fear and the ego and all that. Right. And I mean, that's...
So all those things kind of, in the long and the short, all those things pretty much create the mechanism that the Force needed in order to make a Vader. And that you need a Shmi to be that.
Well, and I mean... See, that was actually the harder question, because obviously the Force allowed Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan to get stranded on, Tatooine and run into him and all that. And, basically, so, I mean, it just, you could see how it's working. But, yeah, I mean, look, it is an interesting question, and it was definitely worth the discussion. Universal has a couple of, they're sort of unrelated, but kind of unrelated, where he's like, the hunt for Ben Solo was close to happening. He's saying he can confirm it. The Fincher project was not happening, but Soderbergh's was. Yeah, I mean, we know, because Soderbergh himself came out and said it was happening. And actually, Adam Driver was talking about how, it was, they didn't ultimately do it, but it was on its way. And I think I mentioned on our probably our Facebook page that it's too bad. I really would have loved to have seen it, because, again, and it goes into this discussion, it would have been nice to have seen if Ben Solo survived, which is obviously what Adam Driver's idea was, how that would have looked. Because the one thing that I really wish that we could have seen is when you have this big bad guy like Vader, it really would have been cool if Vader, like, okay, Luke turns him and, he's good again. It's like, well, now what? Right? Like, what if Vader had lived? It's like, hey, hi guys. Good news. I'm Anakin. I'm on your side now. So let's just let bygones be bygones.
Yeah, sorry about the mess. Just pull a Han Solo.
The trillions of lives I probably either destroyed or killed. Let's just, I'm good now. And in fact, I remember it was funny because it was a comic book series that was sort of a what if thing. And like, what if he had been injured or whatever, but he turned to the light side? It was something. I don't remember the exact circumstances, but in the comic, Vader had white armor.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, yeah, probably like.
It was pretty
now he looks
cool.
like a stormtrooper.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, there was a little bit of that, but I mean, it was definitely really cool. So I mean, it would have been nice if Ben Solo had survived, because now you could have actually done that story. You could have said, okay, here's a guy that committed all these atrocities, and now he's back to being a good guy. What's the aftermath of that like? I think that would make just some spectacular projects, but it looks like we're not going to see it now. So now Ted says, so if you had to be trained in the Force, then who trained the first person? This is why we need the story of how the Jedi were founded. That's a fair point.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's why I really want to see the whole Dawn of the Jedi. I don't know if that's the official title they were calling it, but that's what we've been calling it for a while. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think anyone It's like anything, I think when you first kind of discover it, you're kind of piecing it together as you go along. There's no, uh, you know, it's just kind of like, all right,
Well,
trial and error.
I can tell you
I would say
this.
that.
Now, what I'm curious about is if they're going to undo. I don't think it's actually officially canon. I don't even remember if it was the expanded universe or it was the Knights of the Old Republic, but one of them, I think it was a comic series actually, did give us the origin story of the Jedi. Back when they used to fight with regular swords and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Back with the first Jedi to discover the Force. There's material out there already that depicts that. And that's why when this whole, it's James Mangold that's doing this, right?
Yeah.
So when
I heard they scrapped it.
Oh, the whole thing?
Yeah, I heard.
No, it's tough to. Well, it'll probably be back again. Lando. They actually were talking about Lando's back on again. I mean, and then of course.
Well, we were just waiting for the brothers to kind of finish the script or come up with a.
Well, there was.
Last I heard.
Yeah, I mean, there was some other stuff in there too, and then now the Rey movie is back off because they're waiting for some script approval there. I mean, it's really tough to try to figure out and keep track of, the status of all these projects. But okay, let's just pretend that the James Mangold thing will happen eventually. Maybe it has been shelved. It might come back. The fact that they were going to entertain it at all, because if you remember the Benioff and Weiss project was actually going to be an Old Republic, whereas Mangold wanted to go all the way back to the beginning. And when I first heard that, I was really intrigued because I'm like, I wonder if they're going to undo the story that's already been told about that. And, again, I mean, it probably talking about a handful of fans that even still remember those stories. I can't even tell you where they are. Like, I don't even remember what it was. I think it was a comic series. If anybody out there knows, chat it in, but it was a whole, origin story of the Jedi. So I was really curious on, are they just going to retcon it? Are they going to, how's it going to go? So I'm hoping, because whatever they did come up with, I don't remember all the details other than they fought with swords, not lightsabers. They discovered that later. But I do remember that it was actually pretty cool. Like it was satisfying. And I hope that they don't change that much. Let's see who we got. Oh, Ted also chats in. I would also like to see a character who is a natural, force-strong, positive person, independent of the Jedi Order. That would be more like the I, Jedi story from the expanded universe.
Mm-hmm.
To have somebody, or, I mean, I guess because she was that's kind of where Ahsoka is right now. I don't know if that counts because it's not, she had her origin firmly in the Jedi Order, right?
Yeah.
I think
that's her foundation.
Yeah, what Ted's talking about is somebody who
just
is a Force user.
Oblivious.
Yeah, right. It was never a part of the Jedi or the Sith. I could go for that.
Well, that's kind of one of the things that we were kind of talking about. That's kind of what led to this conversation to begin with, Eric, is, we were talking about, because with John Boyega's, with Finn's character, we were talking about different people who are Force sensitive, but they may not be Jedi. But it's like, okay, well, should they be trained as, and that's the thing. It's my point was, I don't believe that everyone needs to be a Jedi in Star Wars. Just because you're Force sensitive, I don't think that, you need to be a Jedi. And I don't think everyone needs to be tapping into the Force, so to speak. Like, why can't you just be, yes, I know the Force flows through all all human or living things. However, Alice, who works in, HR, I don't think she's, okay, well, she has a high word count per minute when she types. Is she using the Force? You see what I'm saying? Like, come on now. Like, can people just be
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't want to fall
Regular.
into the trap of, but again, I think that's where the midichlorian count comes in, where, yeah, you could have somebody who's like a really good typist, but they're not necessarily, like, the force is flowing through them and they have it a little bit. Like, here's a perfect example, Han Solo. Han Solo is widely regarded as one of the best pilots in the galaxy, one of the best marksmen in the galaxy, probably one of the best, scoundrel, gambler, whatever. Smugglers, right? Now, he's not using the force. The force flows through him, but he's not using the force to do it.
But see, some people will make that argument because why is he the best pilot in the galaxy, and why is he such a good? You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
and that's the trap
right.
I don't want people to fall into.
Well, I don't think, because Lucas himself even basically established there is a difference. Like, the force flows through us and it binds us, and there's certain more benign things that it does. Not everybody has the power to tap into the force in the way that a Jedi or a Sith does. And I think that's the important distinction. And that's where Lucas came up with the scientific explanation, like, okay, well, if your midichlorian count is above a certain number, all right, that's when you start to do that. And, I mean, I can understand why the Jedi want to do what they're doing, because it's almost like you don't want these guys going off and not being properly trained, not just in the use of these powers, but really more in the responsible use of these powers.
Now, one question I want to figure out too, or I wish there was an answer for, is like when they say someone is force sensitive, what does that really mean?
Yeah,
because again, like when you say someone is force sensitive, is that Jedi? Like, going back to your original point earlier, Eric, at what level do you start? Okay, popping up on the Jedi's radar. Are you popping up because you may be force sensitive? Like, okay, I sense something. I have a reaction to it, but I don't quite know what it is. But it's not strong enough for me to nudge the Jedi to want to train me. But I do feel something.
Well, and I think, I mean, it's not a good example, really. I mean, it is and it isn't. Like, you look at somebody like Leia. That's a bad example because she's like the other chosen one, and they do want to train her.
Right.
But if you just look at it strictly from the way she uses it, it's a little bit more benign. It's really more of an influential thing versus an offensive or defensive. And certainly, depending on how you look at it, it could be just as bad or dangerous. But let me get this one in from Jeremy. He says, Ben Solo could have been exiled to an uninhabited planet. Then Rey could have on him.
I think called upon him.
Called upon him, yeah. I'm trying to context clues here. Called upon him to help her fight some crazy, powerful Darksiders. There's a lot of directions they could have gone with the hunt for Ben Solo. I'm actually I'm disappointed on multiple levels. I'm disappointed because I love the character of Ben Solo even more than I love Kylo Ren. And I love Kylo Ren. He was probably arguably my favorite character of the sequel trilogy. But once he became Ben Solo, I'm like, oh man, I want to see more of this. Yeah. So I was really disappointed that we were close to actually seeing more of him. And I am triply disappointed because Adam Driver was the one who was actually soliciting this, and he wants to play the character again. And it's like, hey, let him. He was probably the best part of the sequel trilogy. This guy's like a brilliant actor. If he wants to do Star Wars, let him do Star Wars. Look, you figured out a way to bring Darth Maul back. This is not that hard. He just rolled over a cliff. There could have been a ledge under there. I mean, it's not really that tough, right? To bring him back.
So do you want to see Ben? So when we say, I mean, I know he's doing the hunt for Ben Solo is post.
It is post, yes. It's post Rise of Skywalker.
Right, Rise of Skywalker. However, you could have him play him pre.
Sure, pre.
Force Awakens.
Look, at this point, I would take either one. I think it would be more interesting, the post, because now you're talking about dealing with what I've always said, which we we've never had a villain
face the aftermath of their
right after a redemption arc. We've had a few redemption arcs, but the villain has never had to face the consequences, good and bad, of that. And I think that a lot of interesting stories could be told by actually having that. But again, that said, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to having, the Ben Solo. Look, a lot of the comics dealt with Ben Solo before he turned to Kylo. And that would be cool to see too. I mean, really both. It's like, look, you got a guy who's an amazing actor who was the best part of your trilogy who actually wants to come back. I didn't even know that. I mean, it seemed like Adam Driver was just kind of like, almost like how Oscar Isaac was. Yeah, maybe if I need another house or something, I'll go ahead and return to it. I mean, Adam Driver just seemed to like, he kind of had that sort of lightweight Harrison Ford vibe going on, where it seemed like he was done. The fact that not only wasn't he done, but he was actively trying to solicit a story to play this character again. I mean, man, let the guy do it. Because again, and it goes into this too, because when you're talking about, okay, another thing that hasn't really been explored too much, maybe mildly, you can look at Ahsoka and Maul slightly for this, but even Ahsoka and Maul never really switched sides. They just left their order. But you have a guy who is like fully light, then he goes fully dark, really dark, and now he comes back and he's fully light again. I mean, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean,
I want to see that.
Well, the thing is, it's like, I wonder why, especially between Rey and Kylo,
right?
They had the whole dyad thing, right? So I'm wondering, like, okay, well, she healed him before, with the whole force healing after he was, stabbed. Why couldn't after the battle of, Exegol, couldn't she basically? He basically gave up his life for hers, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it was a sacrifice. And again, I mean, the idea behind it was he went over this cliff and he kind of Palpatined, right? But look at Palpatine.
Well,
I mean, and Palpatine went down a reactor. I mean, not only did he fall down like this shaft, but I mean, he was like,
incinerated.
Like, yeah,
basically.
Incinerated by this like
as he's shooting force lightning into a reactor. I mean,
right.
So
I mean,
yeah.
And again, you bring him back. I'm just saying, we never even all we saw was Ben Solo like go over that.
Well, no,
ledge.
that's not how it ended though. Remember, they ended with that whole kiss thing, and then he died.
Oh yeah.
He brought her back because initially, like after she took that blast from
he kind of pulled Palpatine. That's right. He kind of pulled a Leia on that one.
Yeah, he basically and so she gave him the kiss. Well, he gave her the kiss, and then she woke up, or something like that. I think I think they kissed at some point.
It's been a minute. I gotta watch that movie again.
And then after she was like rubbing his face or whatever, he basically like dies, and I'm just kind of like, what? See, even that to me, that ending was just so weird to me.
Did he Padme himself? Did he die of a broken heart or something?
Exactly. Like it was so weird. I was just like, what? What?
Well, look, my thing is
sense.
this: all you have to do, look, you had all the Jedi spirits kind of present talking to Rey. Couldn't they have like done a little bit of force mouth to mouth on him? Like, hey, since we're all here, guys, what do you say we all get together and resuscitate, Ben Solo?
Yes,
and maybe that happened off camera, because that's another way you could explain
ADS,
it.
Yeah.
Because after that, you're right. They cut to like Rey and Palpatine and all that stuff. We never even. I don't.
Yeah.
Wait
next
a minute.
thing that we see, right? No, because Palpatine was vaporized essentially, and then
yeah. Now I'm trying to remember. They didn't do like a little funeral pyre on Kylo, did they?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
See?
So essentially,
well, then there you go.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, essentially, he died in Exegol, and then next thing you know, we see her on Tatooine, burying the sabers.
Yeah.
So we never really see what happened to his body or any of that. So
right, because then they had that whole celebration thing on whatever. I gotta see that movie again. I've forgotten a lot more of it than I appears to have.
Yeah.
It's funny because with the original trilogy and even the prequel, I've had like decades of viewings, right? But I just haven't watched the sequel trilogy as much.
Right, because we try to avoid it. Yeah, it's not as good. That's why.
So it's like, but I really should like see it again. But yeah, I mean, the point is, there's room to bring him back.
Sure. Oh, 100%.
If they could bring Maul back, they could bring him back. He probably just like disappeared or something. I think that's what it was. He kind of pulled like a Luke Skywalker. Oh, hang on. Oh yeah, Jeremy. It's like we're a dyad in the Force, man. He says Ben disappeared into the Force. Yeah, well, he could just reappear.
You're right.
And here's the other thing. I mean, not to get off on this tangent now, but why would Kathleen Kennedy turn that down?
Turn out what?
The Hunt for Ben Solo.
The Force is female.
Well, actually, no. Wait a minute. Wait. No. I got my facts wrong. That's right. Lucasfilm actually approved it. It was Disney that turned it down. Now,
that was still the same reason.
I'm sure that, well, no, I have a feeling if it was like Bob Iger, he's just like, listen, we're just going to let the sequel,
Yeah.
let the past die, kill it if you have to.
Yeah, this didn't go over well. Let's just kind of sweep this under the rug, shall we?
Right. Now, you want to bring back Han Solo? We're good.
Yeah.
You want to do the hunt for Han Solo? I will greenlight that one.
Right. Oh, man.
Remember, we didn't see the body.
That's true.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where, they have to be careful with some of these projects moving forward, though, because you do want to avoid painting yourself into a corner, which is, ironically, it's more or less what the expanded universe did. I mean, they came up with the Yuuzhan Vong thing, which is one of the greatest storylines. Bloated though it may have been in certain areas, it was great, but the problem was it was so all-encompassing that once you finish this just insanely long 22-book story, now what do? You can't just go back to some of the lighthearted adventures, after you've just ripped apart the galaxy. It's like, what are you going to do? So sometimes the expanded universe, and even in other areas, did paint themselves into a corner. So what you have to do is you have to avoid that if you're going to start doing some of these post-Rise of Skywalker stories.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, if you bring him back, if you were to bring Ben Solo back, now what would be cool, I guess he could replace Leia and kind of help rebuild the Republic while she does the whole Jedi thing.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
That would be really interesting. He becomes like the leader of the New Republic.
Yeah, especially since he was the one who was so adamant about destroying, he's on the complete opposite side of that. Now he's kind of, it's almost like a whole fulcrum. Then, like when we saw Agent Callus, now he's trying to help the members of the, it was just like, whoa.
Well, the other thing is like, here's the guy that was just trying to destroy them and all that, and now he's the head of this very army that, he basically, like, how are the people going to react to him? Like, the military and all that. It would be kind of weird. It's like, I can't believe I'm taking orders from Kylo Ren right now. I mean, it's got to be like one of those kind of things.
And see, that's the thing. See, that's what made Vader versus Kylo so different, was because, see, had Kylo been more like Vader in the sense of never taking off your mask. He could have easily kind of like, yeah, I'm Ben Solo.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? But, you know, because you're taking your helmet off every 5 seconds, you know, like, okay, we know Ben Solo and Kylo Ren are the same, one and the same person. You know, it's kind of like that whole Tony Stark, you know, I am Iron Man. And, you know, everybody knows that he's Iron Man.
See, what I want then, what they really need to do is the hunt for Matt the radar technician. That's the way he has to go in. He's got to go in like, just start on the ground
He's got
floor,
a wig.
man.
Like, man, you look familiar. He's force choking like those.
That's still,
Man,
that is still,
that's
one,
still
of the
one of the funniest.
absolute,
Yeah.
that is actually one of the best Disney era things that had nothing to do with them. Oh man. And every time Adam Driver would go on Saturday Night Live, I mean, he'd have all these characters he's created. He's actually due for another round. I hope he does it.
Yeah, absolutely. But do you think that going back to the the topic for our last few moments that we have here on the show? Do you think that there should be more emphasis on the faith in the science, or the faith or the science, or do you also feel like there should be more Force users that aren't a part of either faction, being Jedi or Sith? Kind of a two-part question.
Well, I mean, I think that what they could do is ironically, I actually think that the Disney Plus shows have been doing a really nice balance, particularly The Mandalorian, because you have, the M count, which is, it's like, yeah, we know what it is.
Yeah,
exactly. Don't try to bury it like that. But I like what they're doing, where they have, obviously Moff Gideon, how he's getting like these blood transfusions or whatever, and being imbibed with some of it, where they're basically doing kind of a half and half, where they have some science, sci-fi, because again, you do have to remember that it is a fantasy thing. It's not sci-fi, but the way they're bringing it in, and you can even, you can almost frame it like, if you try to create a Jedi in the lab, it's not going to be the same as somebody who truly follows the order. And you could see, you see this all the time in martial arts. In fact, the whole Karate Kid thing is based on it in a lot of ways. You had Kreese, and of course later Terry Silver, where they were trained in martial arts in a more militaristic way. It's stripped of all the spiritual aspects, the meaning, a lot of the philosophies, all that. It's basically just, here's the techniques, here's how to take down an enemy combatant. And then of course you have the Miyagi way, who has all that in there. And then of course those two ways were, through Daniel and Johnny, were pretty much put to the test. And you can almost do that even here, where you have a more scientific approach to creating a Force user versus one of the orders. So you could definitely explore it that way, or you could just do pretty much what they're doing with The Mandalorian, where they have elements of both. And right now, anyway, they seem to be working in harmony with each other. Like, they're not necessarily taking away from anything that was done in the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy. They're more or less just adding to some of the lore without changing too much. You had the whole, what was the thing in the Bad Batch? Palpatine's program, that was kind of a science
necromancer.
Thing. Yeah. So you have some precedence for this anyway. So I think as long as they have this nice little balance between the two, I think you can actually have both of these live in harmony without necessarily either contradicting each other or just nullifying each other.
I mean, I didn't think about this, but you brought up a very good idea of having, the faith versus the science versions of the Force. you know, I think that, when you say Gideon is trying to manufacture
Mm-hmm.
force-like beings versus like, okay, no, these people are naturally gifted in the force, and they've been indoctrinated with the philosophy as opposed to weaponizing the force solely.
Right.
So that would be cool.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay.
Now, Jeremy says, would Chewie forgive Ben? He got this in on the last part of our On for Ben Solo discussion. That's a tough one. I don't know. It depends on how he is written. I could see.
It depends if he has his bowcaster. And
I
if he's
could see.
eating.
Yeah, right. I could see two different stories scenarios where he does and one where he doesn't. I mean, I could see where it would happen.
Yeah.
Especially because, look, I mean, Chewie's well versed in what the dark side does to people. He certainly knows how Luke not only tried but successfully redeemed his father, and how, I mean, we know, even though we haven't seen it yet in anything, we know that Anakin visited Luke. Chewie's been around long enough. I think he gets it. And being that, Kylo and / Ben isn't just some guy that killed his dad. I mean, that was like his son killing his father, right? I mean, Ben was basically like a son to Chewie too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, if everybody else forgave him, he could probably find his way to doing it too. Then again, I can also see a situation where maybe that doesn't
his arms off.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it really just depends on how they want to write it.
Yeah.
Honestly. And, that could also be part of the thing. Maybe he doesn't right away. Like, maybe he holds a grudge for a while. And maybe that's part of the story, part of the drama. Like I said, we've never seen a situation where the main villain has to atone. Like, okay, you got this redemption arc, but they've never had to face the consequences of their actions. They always died.
Yeah.
And then went and became a little Force ghost and, saying kumbaya with the rest of the Jedi. Like, one of the funniest memes that I ever saw was when, they show, like, Anakin, Yoda, and Obi-Wan. And then in the background, you see all the Force ghost younglings that he killed in the, in Revenge of the Sith. Like, hey, wait a second. So you have to think of it like that too. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much it for this one.
Yeah, I think that does it for us.
Yeah, that was a good discussion actually. Like I said, a lot of our Force-centric discussions are usually pretty popular, so it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. But I don't know. What do you think? What are you thinking for next week?
It's been a while, but I don't know yet. So we actually might have to wait and see.
Well, I mean, yeah, we can see, and in fact, we also you know what, you might hate this, but next week might be Visions.
Daisy Ridley information has come up though, so we can talk about that.
Hey, unless you actually have Daisy Ridley on, ready to be interviewed.
I'll work on that.
Yeah, I know. I can just see. Yeah, that would be motivation
please.
for you. Like, listen, you have no idea. Have you seen Visions? You have got to let me.
Right. Look at this hour of your night.
Yeah, just come on. It'll be cool. Just trust me. Yeah.
We're cool. We're not gonna be all,
Right.
We think your character was a Mary Sue. We're not gonna treat you that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hopefully she doesn't actually watch any of our previous episodes. Or we're basically trashing the Rey character. Yeah, we'll have to. That's a good point. We'd have to fake it. Oh yeah, it was like she starts talking about her character, and we're like, "Yep, we got that when we were watching the movies." Yep. It's like we were always trying to tell people.
Right.
Completely lying.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it would definitely bring out the dark side, but all right.
Definitely.
Well, you guys are just going to have to wait until next week to find out what we're talking about next week. So until then, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Like I said, we always enjoy talking about the Force. So with that, I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.